welcome to the channel. It's time for spooky stories. I hope everyone is doing well. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time, welcome. If it's not your first time, welcome back. Please share. Please share. And when you subscribe, make sure you hit that subscription button that is ring the bell. Ring the bell. That's what I'm trying to say. Ring the bell. I'm a little distracted. My cats are in here with me, and I gave them a little catnip, and they're doing a little too much, but they're with me. All right, so today is spooky stories, right? So I have about 4 quickies. I think they're quick. You know, I could talk, so I'll embellish a little bit. Keep it interesting. But no, I got some spooky stories. I had to call my mom before getting on just to clarify a few details that she shared with me. All right. But I will start when the moderator comes on. Let me see. Let me check it for my moderators. All right. So as soon as my moderators let me know they in the building, we will begin with Freaky Fridays. So I hope everybody is doing well. You know, this is a faceless channel, so I'm not trying to make, you know, it ain't about being seen. It's usually about the cards. October and this time of year is one of the favorite times of the year. And spooky stories are some of my favorite to watch. So I figured I'd start telling some, you know what I'm saying? All right, so moderators will soon be in the building. Thanks for the like, whomever that is. Back with each other. All right, y'all. Monica, what's up? Where am I? I'm here. All right, so we are going to get started with the spooky stories. I got a deck in my hand because I'm so used to being on live with a deck. So, you know, I don't know if I'm going to pull anything, don't even mind me. So, first story. When my mother was about 8 years old, she has several siblings. She's a baby of 6. I'm doing good. Can't complain. Y'all may hear a lot of noise in the background. My cats are really in rare form right now, but they are with me while I tell my spooky stories. Why can't you see me? Because it's spooky stories. And this is typically a faceless channel. Okay. So, so the first story is that my mom and family, meaning grandparents and older siblings, traveled down to Houston, Texas. So they're from New Jersey and they traveled down to Houston, Texas when my mother was about 8, she told me. And one night, she said her and her cousin Willie stayed in the living room when they visited. And one night she woke up and she saw what she thought was her mother in a pink nightgown. And she remembered the color. I hear you, Monica. Yeah, you can see my face. That's about it. Anyway, so she said that she woke up in the middle of the night because she heard something, and then she saw what she thought was her mother in a pink duster, she said. So, like, think about like a muumuu, if you know what a muumuu is, a long nightgown. So, the thing was moving in the hallway, and I think it was coming toward them. So, she said she pushed her cousin Willie because she was the only one awake. and Willie was dead side like sleep. She couldn't get Willie to get up for nothing. So she said she ended up getting up, and then she went over and she grabbed a brush, and she said at first she thought it was her mother, but then when it started to come toward her, the long hair it had in the back was the same long hair it had in the front, and it was faceless, so she never could see the face. And she just said she freaked out, and that's when she started really pestering Willie to get up. Willie would never wake up. Willie woke up the next day, but during that time, Willie would not wake up. So she started to swing at it with the brush, and then it just disappeared. It just dissipated. So I asked her, I said, well, what happened the next day? Willie never saw anything. And when she told her family, she said they all just looked at her, and then they turned their head like, yeah, okay. But that was it for that. So, you know, that was the first indication that there was activity. But again, she's 8, so she's not asking a lot of questions. She just shared what she shared to the family members. Hi, Dante 360. Hola. Oh yeah, that's a real life story. So then sometimes, so I asked her, I said, well, how long were you at the house? And she said she was only at that house. Well, not only. She said, we stayed down there for at least 3 weeks. So she said we were there a good amount of time. And she described the properties. There was 2 properties, and they shared backyards. But to enter the other yard, you had to go through the chicken coop. So I asked her more about, because the second story mattered in the because it had something to do with the backyard. So I said, what were the position of the trees? And she's like, she's like, that's 63 years ago. I don't remember the position of the tree, but I do remember what happened. So one night, they were there. It was definitely evening time. I think more like dusk. When it gets dark, but it ain't fully dark. And the swing in the backyard, I wouldn't say at first they didn't notice who it was. They assumed her sister was outside because someone was in the yard swinging on the swing and smoking a cigarette. And the cigarette was lit and you could smell it. So she thought it was her older sister who was a smoker. But now she's telling me now, you know how elders tell me. She told me she thought it was her sister. Then she said, no, it couldn't have been her because she was 14 at the time. I don't know how long my aunt was smoking. The back in the day, they would have smoked younger. But she did assume at one point it was her sister. But then it couldn't have been her because when they looked in the house, her sister was in the house. So I had turned my head for a second. I was seeing the faces. Y'all funny. So then they realized the silhouette that they saw was a masculine figure. And so what they surmised is that it was probably our uncle that had passed, or the grandfather. She said she couldn't remember if it was the uncle or the grandfather. But they knew that no one was actually out on that swing because there was no one else to account for. So if it wasn't her sister, and then when they really looked, the shadow looked masculine, they realized it was a man, but it wasn't anybody in that house. So that's my first 2 spooky stories. I got a few more, but after that, y'all gonna have to submit some stuff because I know some things have happened to y'all. You know what I mean? So here's another one. All right, so now this happened to us in our old house. Like, all right, so our last house when we bought it, it was a row home, but it was like a semi-detached row home, right? So, when we first got there, we were a couple with no children yet, and so our bedroom, so being that it was a row home, was 2-story with a basement. But our bedroom sat near the front of the house, and below it was the dining room, or what we made into a dining room, because the middle part should have been a dining room, but we kind of flipped it in the house because it was dining room, living room, kitchen, which in most houses, the kitchen and the dining room are close to each other. So imagine, all right, so our bedroom is above the dining room, and it's also above the doorway, which had a vestibule, meaning it had about a 3 foot entrance. Like, so when you come in, three more feet, 3 to 4 more feet, there's another door that you enter the house with. So we would be asleep or just be still, and all of a sudden something would walk across the floor. Oh boy. What do you mean any electricity? Oh yeah, I got electricity. You don't see my light on in the back? Anyway, so the floor would creak randomly. Like nothing would be disturbing it. You know, the animals would be still. We would be still because we had a dog and a cat at the time. Nothing would be, no, 2 dogs and a cat. Nothing was moving but the floor, somebody walking across the floor. That's right, Nick. You feel what I'm saying? Is something behind me? It might be. So, so yeah, that didn't bother us though. Like we weren't afraid of it. Um, it would just move and creak the floor. So, hello, Ian, excuse me, Ian. So then, what happened? Oh, there would be times where, um, we'd be in the living room. Remind you, my bedroom is not over the living room. It's another room above that. But anyway, we're in the living room. We'd watch TV, and we had 2 couches across from each other. We kind of claimed them. He had his couch. I had my couch. The dogs would be in a dog bed in the middle of the floor, and every now and then, they would get up, like straight up, and just stare toward the stairs that would be behind my husband's couch, and that led of course to upstairs. So they would just get up, or they would look around in the air, right? You know how you would think dust was just moving, stuff like that. No, it wasn't moving. So we would just look at each other like, oh shit. But it never bothered us. Now fast forward to baby girl number one. When she was about, I want to say a year, yeah, she was a year and a half. All of a sudden, now this child was not clingy. She's breastfed baby, but she wasn't clingy, and I stopped breastfeeding before she turned 1. And about 1.5, she was a well-adjusted child, ate on her own, all of that. At some point in time, I could not, at 1.5, could not leave her in the living room by herself. Meaning, all I would do is go to the next room to the kitchen, and she would have a royal fit. So that's when we realized whatever it was in the house was disturbing her. So, thank you, Rajesh. So, I would have jumped if there was a campfire. So, anyway, um, so we had to call a priest. So, we happened to recently, at that point in time, meet somebody who was a priest, um, that we trusted. And he had to come and say prayers all over the house. And after that, she was fine. Nothing else disturbed us. Now, we would hear a creak a little bit, but it seemed like it was more of an echo of a energy, but it wasn't like before, like somebody literally walking across the floor. If somebody opened the door downstairs, it could impact the house, but this was happening before or while no one else was touching it, so it was a little different. It was clear enough that the child was fine. Yes. So if you want a spooky story told, hit me up in my email, and I will tell you, I will tell your story. I'll change the names, especially if I can't say the names because I don't like butchering people's names. I really don't, because my name is always butchered, so I know what that's like. But also, if you don't want your name told or the name said. I won't say it. I'll just, let's call it Maria and Todd and whatever. So here's another story. Now, this wasn't really spooky as much as it was about transition. So well, wow, I could tie that up to a couple stories. So I had a dream about an aunt. And in the dream, my aunt, one of my aunts died. And I assumed it was my father's aunt that had already passed. In the dream, she left us an apartment, but it was a rent stabilized apartment, but it was huge. Like some you might see in Manhattan, because those rent stabilized apartments in Manhattan or like Brooklyn or whatever, really big back in the day. So in the house, there was a bathtub, like damn near a swimming pool size. There was all these dusty knickknacks in the bathroom. And I was thinking to myself, well, I'm gonna have to clean that up and clear it out. And then I was thinking, damn, what am I gonna do with this apartment? In my dream, I knew I had a place to live. And then at some point, I walk to one of the bedrooms, walking toward one of the bedrooms, and I see my uncle. And my uncle, he was actually passed, but this was an uncle on my mother's side. And we're sitting in his bedroom, but his bedroom is like literally outside, which is weird. So I'm sitting on his bed, but we're outside. And then my husband's family is there, and they're mourning over somebody that passed away in their family. So I was so confused, like, what the hell is happening? And what am I going to do with this big behind apartment? And if he's still living here, that means somebody got to share the expenses. I'm just thinking of all this other stuff, and I'm going, okay. So I wake up. Something tells me go seek my aunt. So I went to another aunt on my mother's side, and we got to talking. And I said to her, what's going on with my other aunt, her younger sister? I said, what's going on with Aunt A? I'm going to call her Aunt A. I said, last I knew, she had a goiter on her neck, and that thing seems to be getting bigger, and she's not taking care of it. And she said, I don't know. I said, well, does anyone have insurance on her? And she said, no. Now, mind you, this is July or end of June. And so she said, no. I said, well, I think we need to check on her. Now, mind you, she was not the aunt I was thinking about in the dream. So anyway, I said to her, we need to, see what's going on with her. So I found out she needed some things like what does she need? That liquid that people drink. Oh, it'll come to me. Where people drink the protein. I can't think of it right now. Insurance, that's what it was. She needed some insurance, and we found out no one had insurance on her. So, all right, fine. What do we have to do? Matter of fact, let me talk to her kids. Now, her kids, I think, were in their 20s at the time. What is that on the door? Oh, Lord. Oh, no, that's your sister. All right, so I'm over here telling spooky stories in the dark, and my cat's doing too damn much, scaring me. So, what happened? Where was I? Oh, okay. So we were like kind of figuring out some things. I started looking into insurance, trying to see if we could get her covered, if there's ever any funeral expenses. I don't know. We just kind of went into that mode between my aunt, my mom, and then I started alerting her children, like, you need to check on your mother a little bit more. And, they had a good relationship with her, but we were just verifying that things were straight. So August rolls around, and we get a call that she had to be rushed to the hospital because that goiter on her neck started to close up her throat. So mind you, it was a lump for a long time. She had never taken care of it. And I think it started with thyroid disease. So she goes to the hospital. The hospital does emergency surgery. They open her up, but basically they closed it back up because they realized that the lump was cancerous. So now she's in the hospital. and it's spreading because when you open that stuff up, it gets oxidized and somehow it just metastasizes, right? So we get to, like, I want to say, actually it was around this time that year. It was in the September she was in hospice. So by October, the first week of October, and her birthday rolls around this time too. Anyway, she was on hospice. And if you know anything about hospice, it's basically a humane way of allowing you to die comfortably, either in your home or in the hospital. So she was in the hospital. They may give you IV fluids. They may not. They won't put you on machines. They won't put you on medications. They'll just let you die peacefully. So, we went to visit her. My mom was like, you should go see your aunt. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go right now. So we were in the area and we decided to go to the hospital. Terrible parking. Terrible parking. So I happened to get a spot on the street and my mom was gonna come too. So I said to her, well, if you're gonna drive up here, when you get here, I'll leave because I'll give you my spot. So now we're in the hospital and we get to her room. My daughter, who was almost 3, because her birthday's the next month. Before we could walk in the door, she said, no, mommy, daddy, no. And we said, why? What's wrong? She said, the lions. And we said, the lions? She said, yeah, you don't see the lions? And I said, what color are they? And she said, mom, they're brown. So I said, okay. So, she was little. She knew her colors. And I said, well, where are they? She pointed to the ends of my aunt's bed. And I said, oh. I said, well, that's okay. I said, they're there to protect Auntie. But we're family, so we're not going to do Auntie harm. They'll let us in. And me rationalizing with her, it worked. So she said, okay. And she let us in the room. But my child was not about to let us in the room. So we enter the room. And there's a Bible my mom had left next to her bed. So I decided, now I'm not really religious or anything like that, but I was born raised Christian. So I pick up the Bible and I started to look at it and to decide what I wanted to read. So I decided to read Psalms 23. So the 23rd Psalms. Yeah, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I should fear no evil. So I read the whole script to her, and I'm hearing her breathe, but she sounded like she was on a machine. And a nurse comes in. I guess she checks the IV bag or something. I said, excuse me, is she on a machine? They said no. So what I was hearing, I found out after the fact, was the death rattle. I was like, I've never imagined what that was like. I never knew what that was, but it sounded very mechanical. Okay. Oh boy. I am your daughter. People are stupid. So then what happened? Oh, okay. So then I'm like, we can't talk to her. Now I'm bored. Now I'm confused. I don't know what else to do. But I read the 23rd Psalm, so I was like, all right, let me pick up and read another one. So um I pick up another one and I start reading. No, I opened it up and I read, I think, Psalm 66. I started reading it and then her daughter arrived. So then I get a call from my mom. So I hug her daughter, what I'm saying, my little cousin, and then we said, all right, I'm gonna let you go. My mom will be here any second now. We're gonna go give her the spot and we leave. I swear we get, I want to say, 20 minutes down the road, and my mom calls me because we live about 40 minutes away. And she says, she's gone. She left. She passed. She transitioned. I said, okay, all right, okay. So in hindsight, what I felt about it is that maybe we helped her transition. We helped her let go, but she was already at the death rattle. So that's another story. All right, what else I got? I got some else. Mm, um, this one is not spooky. I don't think it's spooky, but when my same daughter, the oldest child, was 3, um, her father was visiting family out of state, and we were heading on our way to the airport, and it was a pretty lengthy ride. So I decided, because I have a book, and you could check this book out. I don't think it's in print right now, but you could probably get it if you're interested in it. It's called Before I Got Here. And it's written by Blair Underwood, the actor, and another woman who was the co-writer. I don't remember her name. She's not an actor, as far as I know, not famous, so I just can't remember her name. It's a little book. It's not big, and it's stories of experiences that children have had that they talk about either before they got here or things that happened when they did get here. Like, for example, something like that in the book was, this happened to my sister when she was about 1.5. Um, I could pick up the photo album and go through it with her, and she could always point to my grandfather and call him Pop Pop. Now that's what I called him, and she would call him Pop Pop, and she described the house that my mom and him lived in. You know, when the family, when my mom was little. By the time I was born, they did not live in that house. She knew that he did not like football, that he preferred baseball. She knew a couple other things about him that no one had told her. No one could have told her. She was 1, maybe not even, maybe 2 tops. So she knew very detailed things about this man, and she spoke about him like she's seen him every day. All right, so that's kind of those stories in that particular book. If you want to get it, it's called Before I Got Here. Um, so I'm on the road, and I thought about that book. So I said to my daughter, I said, "What was it like before you got here? Like when you were, before you were in my stomach, or when you were in there? Like, what was it like?" And she said, "I don't know. It was dark." So I was like, "Hmm." So mind you, I took the story in and wrote it down. So that's why I remember a lot of the details that she said. So I said, "So it was dark?" She said, "Yeah, it was dark. Then it was light." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Mm-hmm." And I said, "Then what happened?" She said, "Oh, the doctors were nice. All of them, they were nice." I said, "Were they?" She said, "Yeah. Why is it even? This is YouTube doing this because my signal is fine. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see me?" I need to know. Somebody say something. I see the time going. Okay, good, good. So yeah, she said they put her in cups. So I'm thinking, what in the world does she mean by cups? So it took me a minute to process what she was talking about. And what I realized was that when she was in the hospital, and I think they still have them, is that they have these bassinets, and they're wooden bassinets, small, small, but enough for a newborn to go in. And they have these clear tops on the top of them. So they're like the guardrails or whatever. It's just all clear. So it would look like a cup. That's the best way a child could describe it, as a cup. And on the day she was born, now I had Braxton Hicks, which means false labor, a couple days before that. There were no babies in the nursery. I think the nurseries there held 8 at a time. So that means they had 16 beds as far as nurseries go. And the day I came with Braxton Hicks, there might have been 4 babies. And then they sent me home. So on the day that she was born, there was a full moon. The first nursery filled up, and the next nursery started to load. So there were lots of cups, and because she was little, they wanted to observe her more, and they brought her into the nursery even though she was supposed to be in our room. So she was able to see all the different babies. And she saw the cups. She told me a few other details that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I wrote them down anyway. Oh, here we go. It's a damn raccoon outside. Why, when I'm telling spooky stories, this shit got to be making bump in the night? You know what I'm saying? Now my cat's sitting there on the edge of the bed, alert. I'd pan around, but I ain't showing my whole room. But they are sitting there like, you should see them. They all like, fuck is that? All right, so I got a couple more, but I need some more from y'all, okay? If we're going to get spooky with it in the month of October, please share. You know, ask your parents, ask your siblings. You know what I'm saying? Those ears and eyes, yeah. Every night that I hear that noise, I go outside. Well, I don't go outside looking, but if I happen to go outside for something like to get to the garage or something like that, the damn raccoon is sitting there like, excuse me, I'm having dinner now. I don't need to show my face. Rajesh, you want to see me? Go on my Instagram. That way you see my face. Go on TikTok, but I don't do face on YouTube. That's just how my preference, and that's that. Thank you for thinking I'm cute. My husband thinks I'm cute too. Thank God. But yeah, so what else? I'm trying to think of a quick story before we end this tonight. Um I got some, but I don't know how quick I could tell it. Um they are on guard right now, y'all. Ears up, ready. You said we chilling over here. um Damn. Oh no, TikTok banned in India. Sorry for you. Well, no, not sorry for you, cause, well, it depends, right? Because TikTok in America is a lot. Is other countries not as bad. TikTok in China they said is more tame, more not so not so much foolishness. What the hell is outside, y'all? They are really going to town. And we poured ammonia on the garbages and everything. Y'all hear the crickets? They're doing too much out there. I don't even want to know what the hell is out there. But anyway, one of the stories. Okay, so there was a couple, and the couple, well, this is what they told me. They were in search of, so they were told by their, I don't even know what you would call it. So, like, if you've ever heard of Obia, right? So in different African spiritual traditions, or African American or African Caribbean spiritual traditions, you have uh, different sects, I guess you want to call it. So you have Obia, Yoruba, Lukumi, Santeria, you have Candomblé or something like that, right? You have different ones. And this couple went to, um, they had to do something with it, a ritual. So they had to do work, right? And when you do ritual, I guess you have to gather ingredients. And one of the ingredients was cemetery dirt. So what they said was, they got in the car and they found a local cemetery. So they didn't go to where their loved ones were buried. They just went to one nearby. And when they entered the cemetery, I mean, they didn't think nothing of it. So then they decided to park because they were going to gather the dirt. And I'm not sure what they were thinking, but I know they turned off the car. And then they said or no, they said they didn't turn off the car and that the battery started to drain and almost seemed like, and so they turned the car off like, wait a minute, the car was just fine. And then they went to turn it on and it was like, zh, 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 zh. So then the husband panicked. He said the husband panicked. And woman, if you don't get this car going, and they turned it on. And they turned it on and they just, fuck it. They didn't even collect whatever they were going to collect. They just got the hell up out of here, out of there. So I think that whatever was in that cemetery, and I think it was it might have been a Jewish cemetery, but I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't because she said it sat next to a Presbyterian. Is that a Presbyterian church? I think it's a Presbyterian church, she said. So maybe it was just a church that wasn't, well, they should have went where their relatives were, I guess. But, yeah, their battery literally started to drain. And some of the, stories that I've read before talked about being in places where the thing, whatever the thing was, it would drain your battery. Did I like the book that I read? Yes, I did like it. And like I said before I got here, I read it. It's a really quick read front to back. It's really little snippets of stories. People, children that share stories about seeing their grandfather all the time, or parents watching the child giggle, or also parents saying that the child would say things like, I picked you. When I talked to God about where I wanted to be, I chose you as my mom and him as my dad. So they basically said that, I had an option and God gave me an option before I got here. And I really, truly believe that to be. I feel like I personally have had options, and I also feel like we also choose our parents for not only for the experience that we get with them, but we also choose our parents for the people that we are going to meet. So as much as I love my parents, I do feel like I chose them before I got here to be closer and connected to my grandparents and my step parents. Those four people taught me a lot. Like, my father did not teach me as much as he taught me some lessons, but it wasn't a lessons that you want to learn. Um, my mom taught me a lot too, but these people that I just mentioned, I've spent the most time with them. Can you be a moderator? Sigma, I got to get to know you first. The people that are moderating this channel right now, they are people I personally know, have gotten to know for a while. So if you want to be a moderator, you got to stick around. We got to get to know you. And I invite you into the inner sanctum of the Clarityempress family. You get what I'm saying? We got to be able to trust you. I don't trust easily. But I think that's it for tonight. I'll have a few more. Um, Next Friday we'll talk about Black Death and what that looked like and what that ended up being. We'll talk about the cemetery don't want them. Literally. Um, yeah. So I'll have some more stories. Thank you, Tuesday. Yeah, so that's how that works, right? We know you, we trust you, we can opt in. We don't know you, we can't do that. All right, so that was it for tonight. Nah, you fake. Okay, Sigma. Oh my gosh. All right, so that was the reading. Thank you for coming to the channel. Again, subscribe, like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the spooky stories. Like I said, there will be more on next Friday. Um, I think I'm gonna end this live and do a quick collective. Oh my gosh, people are weird. Like we don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Black Cherry. Cause seriously. Anywho, I appreciate all y'all that came, participated. I thank you for the pew pews that needed to happen tonight. I appreciate my moderators that I trust. You get what I'm saying? And thank you, Tuesday. Shoot. I don't know what they think this is. Did y'all enjoy tonight? Did you enjoy the spooky stories? Were they interesting? I think we could go further. I think I can get deeper with y'all, but I also want to hear stories from y'all. So if you want to share. All right, y'all. I bid y'all good night.